This is yet another video for the Excel DSS project. For this video, you will need access to your Excel DSS project file. We have a lot of work to do. We are going to build a nested if statement as well as build a buffer. Let's get to it. All right. In this lesson, we are going to learn two different formulas. The first is a modification of an earlier formula. So we're going to create what's called a nested if statement. And that's basically an if statement inside of another if statement. We created an if statement on the last lesson in this formula right here. All right, so we're going to modify this to include holds because right now we don't have any holds. And then after that, we are going to add a buffer because when we're finished doing the nested if statement, you will only get holds if it's an exact dollar to dollar or penny to penny match between the actual price and predicted price. And that's probably not going to happen. So if we have a buffer and you go a couple cents up and a couple cents down, you kind of widen the area to where you would get some more holds. Okay, so let's start off first with the nested if statement. Click on cell G32, and we have our formula from before. If E32 is greater than F32, then you want to sell. That's the true statement. And if that's not true, if it's false, then you want to buy. So what we're going to do is we're going to mouse over this equation, and where it says, quote, buy, we are going to delete that, highlight it and delete it, and we're going to type another if statement. So after the comma, type if, open parentheses, and we can type out the rest of the formula here. If E32, now in this case, if E32 is less than F32, comma, in this second if statement, if E32 is less than F32, oops, excuse me, we want to buy, so quote, B-U-Y, end quote. Okay, so the first part of the if statement right over here is if E32 is greater than F32, if that's true, we sell. If it's not true, instead of outputting a false statement, we're going into another if statement. If E32 is less than F32, then you buy. But there is a chance that both the actual price, E32, and predicted price, F32, are exactly the same. And if that happens, and it's very rare because we're talking down to the penny, but it could happen, we have to come up now with a false statement. And that false statement will be hold. So, comma, after the last quote and buy, we're going to enter our false statement, HOLD, end quote. All right, and then we have to close the second if statement with a parenthesis, and the first parenthesis will close with this last parenthesis. So you got to make sure your parentheses are balanced. And Excel does a nice job of color coding them. So these red one and this red one match, and this black one and this black one match, and so you know you're close. If you have extra ones, you're going to get um, either different colors or you're going to get it. Well, you're eventually going to get an error. So this is the statement. I'll put it back up on the top here, or it's probably been floating up here for a few seconds now. But this is the statement now that we want to go with. It's a nested if statement. All right. Most likely not going to change anything here. Now, some people forget to do this, but it's very, very important. You have to now copy this formula all the way down. You can click and drag this, okay, and it is copying the formula. All right, so I'm going to show you copy, 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 and then this one did not get the copy, so it's the old formula. So you can copy that all the way down to 1289, or if you could, just mouse over here, double click this, and it will copy the formula all the way down. So if you scroll down here and you click, you see you have the nested if statement. Okay, so that is step one. Chances are you still won't have any holds. You may get one or two, but chances are you have zero. In order to get holds, we do need to add a buffer. So that is our next step, is to add a buffer. So in column I, let's go with row 28. All right, row 28 or 29, it's up to you, but let's go with row 28. We're going to click on that, and we are going to type in the word buffer. Okay, buffer equals, and we're going to build our formula off of this cell right here, J28. So I want you to click on J28, and I want you to make a slight adjustment to it before we do anything. Under the Home tab, I want you to click on this percent button. Okay, so you can click on that percent button, or you can select from this list percentage. And I want you to test it out. I want you to type in the number 5, and as long as it looks like 5%, we're good. All right, type in 1%, type in 15, you get 15%. All right, so let's bring it back down to 5 and leave it there for a second. This is going to be our buffer. So if I have a 5% buffer, when we build in the formula for action, we are going to include this buffer. And for a 5% buffer, it's going to take the actual price and it's going to check the predictive price 5% higher and 5% lower. So technically you get a 10% band. If the actual price is anywhere in between 5% higher and 5% lower of the predicted price, you will see a hold. Okay, so let's do that now. Let's go back to the equation here, and we need to make another modification. Okay, I know you just copied this stuff all down, but we will work on it, the same formula again, and copy that down as well. All right, let's go to the formula bar up here, and let's make our modification. Okay, right after F32, and right before the comma. Okay, I want you to place your cursor there, and I want you to shift 8 and have the asterisk. The asterisk means multiplication. So we have F32 asterisk. I need you to put a parentheses here. And so you're going to multiply F32 times 1 plus the buffer, which is J28. And you can click on that. All right. And then I want you to close this bracket. All right, give you a second to look at that. F32 times parentheses 1 plus J28. Now, before you do anything, I need you to go back to the J, and I need you to add a dollar sign before the J and a dollar sign after the J. And the reason why we do that is when we copy these formulas down, if you don't put the dollar signs there, it will change J to uh, actually it won't change J, but it will change 28 to 29 to 30 to 31, like we saw in the last example when we copied the count formula down. So by putting the dollar signs there, you basically make that sticky. You're making it stick. So no matter what you do with this autofill, this pull down bar here, it will always point back to this buffer. Okay, so that's step one. Step two, we're going to go to the F32 statement inside of the nested if statement. And we're going to do something very similar. We're going to multiply parentheses 1. Now this time we're going to do the opposite. We're going to minus J28. But before we even go further, we need to go back and put our dollar sign. So $J, $28, and then close parentheses. All right. I'm going to leave this here for a second. I'll read through it one more time. If E32 is greater than F32 times the buffer 5% higher, in this case, okay, J28, so $J, $28. If that's true, we want to sell. If it's false, we're going to go into the second if statement where E32 is less than F32 minus the buffer. So the buffer's going the other way. Okay, and if that's true, we want to buy. And if neither this statement or this statement is true, we're going to get our hold. Okay, make sure you have all of the closing parentheses, you have all the commas in place, and you hit enter. All right. For this one, we did not change anything, but we'll see what happens when we do this all the way down. Again, you can click and drag this down, or you can double click this button here. And now look what happens. We have 126 holds. So let's take a look at row 15 here. The price was $130. The predicted price was $124.53. So as long as that's 5% within a 5% band lower or 10% band overall, it will come up as hold. Now, if you think, man, that's $5, that's $6. That's a lot of money. Let's make it a little less sensitive. Let's lower our buffer to maybe 2%. So you have 2% higher and 2% lower for a 4% band. If we change it to 2%, you can see the number of holds goes lower. And if we change it to 1%, you can, oops, that was 100, excuse me, 1%, you can see that it goes even lower than that. That's it for this lesson. We have, I think, 2 more, and then we are done. Save your work, and you can move on to the next video.